Tell those filthy mutts off before I put them down myself!
Officer Pike shoved Monica Graves harder into the asphalt, twisting her wrists behind her back.
You really think those big dogs make you somebody, don't you?
Boone pinned her harder.
Tell them to back up before animal control carries them out in bags!
One K9 growled near the curb, then the second stepped closer. Phones lifted across the lawns. Monica didn't move. Pike laughed.
Look at you! Face in the dirt, dogs losing their minds, still pretending you're in charge!
Monica turned her eyes toward the K9s.
Stand down. Back away and stay where you are.
Both dogs froze instantly. Then she looked back at Pike, calm and steady.
They're trained to wait for my command. Shame nobody taught you the same.
Pike's grip loosened. He had no idea the woman he was humiliating was the only commander those K9s would ever obey. Before we go any further, comment where in the world you are watching from, and make sure to subscribe, because tomorrow's story is one you don't want to miss. The late afternoon sun cast long shadows across Willow Creek Lane as Monica Graves lifted another bag of premium dog food from the back of her black SUV. The weight felt good in her hands, 40 pounds of kibble that would keep her 2 Belgian Malinois healthy for another week. Behind the tall wooden fence surrounding her backyard, both dogs paced restlessly, their deep barks echoing through the quiet suburban neighborhood. Monica had lived on this street for 3 years. She knew every crack in the sidewalk, every neighbor's routine, every sound that belonged here. The sudden screech of tires against asphalt didn't belong. 2 patrol cars barreled down Willow Creek Lane like they were chasing armed bank robbers, instead of cruising through a neighborhood where the biggest crime was usually someone forgetting to bring in their trash cans. The vehicles lurched to a stop directly in front of Monica's driveway, blocking her SUV completely. Officer Darren Pike erupted from the first car like a bull charging from a pen. His massive frame moved with surprising speed across the lawn. Behind him, Officer Tyler Boone scrambled to keep up, his younger legs working hard to match Pike's aggressive stride. "You! Step away from the vehicle!" Pike's voice boomed across the street, causing windows to crack open and curious faces to appear behind curtains. Monica straightened slowly, keeping her hands visible. Years of military training had taught her to stay calm when authority figures got excited. "Is there a problem, officer?" "We got a call about package theft in this area. Someone matching your description." Pike's eyes swept over Monica like she was already guilty of something terrible. "What are you doing here?" "I live here." Monica's voice remained steady, controlled. "This is my house. That's my SUV. These are my groceries." Pike wasn't listening. His hand rested on his service weapon, while his eyes darted between Monica and the dog food bags scattered around her feet. "Turn around and put your hands on the vehicle." "Officer, I think there's been a mistake." Pike grabbed Monica's shoulder and spun her around with enough force to make her stumble. Her chest slammed against the SUV's rear window, the impact knocking the breath from her lungs. Cold metal pressed against her cheek as Pike twisted her arm behind her back. "I said turn around!" Across the street, doors opened. Neighbors stepped onto porches and sidewalks, their faces twisted with confusion and growing alarm. Cell phones appeared in hands, cameras pointing toward the chaos unfolding in Monica's driveway. Boone circled around and grabbed Monica's free wrist, pulling both arms behind her back, while Pike maintained his grip on her shoulder. The pressure sent sharp pain shooting down her spine. "Why am I being detained?" Monica's voice cut through the afternoon air, clear and controlled despite the officers pinning her against her own vehicle. "I haven't committed any crime. I've shown no aggression. I live at this address." Pike's jaw tightened. He hated when people stayed calm during arrests. Fear made his job easier. Respect came from intimidation. But this woman's steady tone and measured words made him look like he was overreacting in front of all these witnesses. "You're being detained for investigation of theft," Pike growled into her ear. "And resisting arrest." "I'm not resisting anything." Monica turned her head slightly, making eye contact with the neighbors filming from their porches. I'm asking legitimate questions about why you're assaulting me in my own driveway. The word assaulting hit Pike like a slap across the face. His grip tightened on Monica's arm as rage built in his chest. This woman was making him look bad, making him look like the aggressor when she was supposed to be the criminal. Without warning, Pike swept Monica's legs and drove her down onto the concrete driveway. Her knees hit the pavement hard, sending bolts of pain through her joints. Boone immediately dropped beside her, pressing his weight against her legs while Pike planted his knee firmly between her shoulder blades. "Get off me!" Monica's composure finally cracked as the full weight of both officers pressed her body against the rough concrete. "You're hurting me! I haven't done anything wrong!" From across the street, Greg Heller stood in his perfectly manicured front yard with his arms crossed and a satisfied smirk spreading across his face. His expensive polo shirt and pressed khakis made him look like he belonged in a country club catalog rather than watching a violent arrest unfold. He'd been waiting for this moment ever since Monica had refused to comply with his HOA demands about her dangerous dogs. "Officers!" Monica lifted her head as much as Pike's knee would allow. "That man across the street, Greg Heller, he's been harassing me for months about my dogs. Check your call records. This is targeted harassment." Pike pressed harder against her back, making it difficult for Monica to breathe properly. "Shut up! Stop talking! Stop making this worse for yourself!" More neighbors emerged from houses, their shocked faces creating an audience that made Boone increasingly uncomfortable. This wasn't how arrests were supposed to look. This looked like two cops beating up an innocent woman in broad daylight. Monica forced her voice to remain steady, despite the pain radiating through her body. "I'm warning both of you. Step away from my property immediately. You're trespassing without a warrant. You're using excessive force without justification. And you're about to make a very serious mistake." Pike leaned down closer to Monica's face, his breath hot against her cheek. "Are you threatening a police officer? Because that's another charge I can add to your list." "I'm not threatening anyone. I'm trying to prevent you from doing something you'll regret." The barking from Monica's backyard had grown louder and more frantic during the struggle. Both dogs sensed their owner's distress through the wooden fence that separated them from the chaos in the driveway. Their powerful voices echoed across the neighborhood like war drums building toward battle. Boone glanced nervously toward the backyard gate. "Those dogs sound really upset, Pike. Maybe we should—" "Focus on the suspect," Pike snapped. "Ignore the noise." But the noise was getting harder to ignore. The barking had shifted from simple agitation to something more urgent, more dangerous, more protective. Monica lifted her head one final time, her voice carrying across the street to every neighbor, every camera, every witness watching this scene unfold. "Last chance, officers. Step back now. Move away from my property. Both of you." Pike's response was to press his knee deeper into her back. That's when the backyard gate suddenly swung open and heavy barking erupted from inside Monica's yard. Two massive Belgian Malinois exploded through the open gate like unleashed lightning. Their muscular bodies covered the distance from backyard to driveway in seconds, powerful legs propelling them across the lawn with terrifying speed. Their deep, aggressive barks shattered the suburban quiet as they charged directly toward the officers, pinning their owner to the concrete. Pike's hand flew to his weapon, fingers fumbling with the holster. "Aggressive dogs! Aggressive dogs approaching!" Boone stumbled backward so fast he nearly tripped over his own feet. "Pike! They're coming straight at us!" The dogs reached Monica and immediately formed a protective circle around her prone body. Their barks echoed off the surrounding houses like gunshots, each sound sharp and commanding. Saliva dripped from their exposed fangs as they positioned themselves between Monica and the officers, muscles coiled and ready to strike. Pike managed to draw his weapon, pointing it at the closest dog. "Back off! Get back!" But Monica lifted her head from the pavement and shouted one crystal-clear command that cut through all the chaos. "Stay!" Both dogs froze instantly. The barking stopped, as if someone had flipped a switch. The massive animals remained perfectly motionless, their bodies still radiating tension, but completely under control. They stood like living statues, eyes locked on the officers, ready to respond to their handler's next instruction. The entire street fell silent. Neighbors who had been backing away in terror now stepped closer, their faces filled with amazement rather than fear. These weren't ordinary pets. These were elite working animals responding to military-level commands. Pike kept his weapon raised, sweat beading on his forehead. The humiliation of being forced to draw his gun in front of cameras and witnesses made his face flush red with anger. This woman just used dangerous animals to threaten police officers. Boone crouched down cautiously, studying the dogs more carefully. Around their thick necks were specialized tactical collars with military-style hardware. Hanging from one collar was a metal tag that caught the afternoon sunlight. Official military identification numbers. Pike, Boone whispered, his voice shaking. Look at their gear. These are military working dogs. Monica kept her voice steady despite Pike's knee still pressing against her back. I trained K9 units overseas for 8 years. These dogs are former military. They respond only to specific commands. They will not move unless I tell them to. I don't care what you trained. Pike's voice cracked with embarrassment and rage. You just threatened 2 police officers with attack dogs. From across the street, Ava Morales pressed herself against her porch railing, her phone held steady in her hands as she recorded every moment. As an ER nurse, she had seen plenty of violence, but this felt different. This felt wrong. The woman on the ground wasn't resisting. She was trying to protect everyone, including the officers. Greg Heller pushed through the gathering crowd, his voice carrying clearly across the street. I told everyone Monica Graves was dangerous. Those dogs have been a threat to this neighborhood for months. She's always been unstable. Several neighbors turned toward Greg with confused expressions. What are you talking about? Called out Mrs. Patterson from 3 houses down. Monica's never caused any trouble. Those dogs have never bothered anyone. She trains attack dogs for money, Greg continued, his face animated with false concern. I've been documenting everything for the HOA. This proves she's been harboring dangerous animals. Pike holstered his weapon, but kept his eyes fixed on the motionless dogs. I'm calling animal control. These animals are going into custody as evidence. You can't take her dogs, shouted another neighbor. She hasn't done anything wrong. But Pike was already speaking into his radio, his voice official and clipped. Dispatch, I need animal control at Willow Creek Lane immediately. 2 aggressive dogs involved in assault on police officers. Monica closed her eyes, fighting back tears of frustration. Officers, please listen to me. I live here. I run a legitimate dog training business. Check my permits. Check my military records. This is all a misunderstanding. The only misunderstanding, Pike said as he finally stepped off her back, is that you thought you could intimidate cops with trained killers. Boone helped Pike pull Monica to her feet, her wrists still bound behind her back. The Belgian Malinois remained frozen in place, their intelligent eyes tracking every movement but their bodies perfectly disciplined. Ma'am, you're under arrest for assault on a police officer, resisting arrest, and threatening officers with dangerous animals, Pike announced loudly enough for every neighbor and camera to hear. As Monica was shoved toward the patrol car, her dogs remained exactly where she had commanded them to stay, watching silently beside the driveway like loyal sentries guarding an empty post. Evening settled over the police station like a gray blanket as Monica sat in the sterile interrogation room, her wrists still sore from the handcuffs. Rain began pattering against the small window, each drop echoing in the silence that stretched between her and the 2 officers across the metal table. Pike hunched over a report form, his pen scratching aggressively across the paper. His jaw was set tight, and sweat still beaded on his forehead, despite the cool air conditioning. Every few seconds, he glanced up at Monica with barely contained fury. Subject Monica Graves deliberately incited 2 trained attack dogs against responding officers, Pike muttered as he wrote. his voice loud enough for Monica to hear every word. Dogs displayed aggressive behavior and advanced on officers in a threatening manner. Subject used military-style commands to control animals during confrontation. Boone sat beside him, staring at the small laptop screen displaying their body cam footage. The video showed Monica's dogs stopping instantly when she commanded them, never making contact with either officer. His finger hovered over the keyboard, but he remained silent. "Tyler, add your statement," Pike ordered without looking up. Boone's throat worked nervously. The footage shows exactly what I wrote," Pike interrupted, his pen stopping mid-sentence. "Those dogs charged us with intent to attack. She used them as weapons, period." Monica watched the exchange with careful eyes. "Officers, I'd like to request an attorney before answering any questions." Pike slid the report across the table toward her. "Just sign here, confirming the details." Monica read the false statement slowly, her face remaining composed despite the lies typed in neat paragraphs. "I won't sign this. It's not accurate." "Lady, you're looking at assault charges." Pike leaned forward, his voice dropping to a threatening whisper. "Animal endangerment, resisting arrest. You want to make this harder on yourself?" "I want my attorney," Monica repeated calmly. Miles away on Willow Creek Lane, animal control officers loaded two confused Belgian Malinois into their van while neighbors gathered helplessly on sidewalks. The dogs whined softly, their intelligent eyes searching for Monica among the faces pressed against windows and standing behind yellow tape. At the neighborhood mailbox cluster, Ava Morales cornered Greg Heller as he sorted through his mail with obvious satisfaction. "You called the police on Monica," Ava said, her voice tight with anger. Greg didn't bother denying it. "Someone had to. This neighborhood has standards." "Standards? She was unloading groceries at her own house." "Those dogs have been scaring potential buyers for months," Greg replied, stuffing his mail into his jacket pocket. "Property values are down 8% on this block because of her little business. People don't want to live next to some woman running a bootleg dog army." Ava stared at him in disbelief. "So you lied to the police?" "I told them what they needed to hear," Greg shrugged. "Monica needed to understand she doesn't belong here. Maybe now she'll take the hint and move somewhere more appropriate. You told them she was stealing packages." "I told them she looked suspicious, carrying bags around cars," Greg corrected with a smirk. "Not my fault they jumped to conclusions." Hours later, Monica walked slowly up her driveway in the darkness, her keys shaking in her hands. The house felt different now, hollow and violated. Every room seemed too quiet without the familiar sounds of her dogs moving around, their claws clicking on hardwood floors. She pushed open the back door and stepped onto the covered patio. Rain continued falling steadily, creating small puddles in the empty dog runs that stretched across her backyard. The feeding bowls sat exactly where she had left them that morning, still half full of kibble that would never be eaten. Monica walked toward the kennel area, her footsteps echoing against the wet concrete. The chain-link runs stood empty, their gates hanging open like mouths frozen mid-scream. She reached the largest run, the one her male Malinois preferred, and sank to her knees beside the metal fencing. The silence devastated her more than the arrest, more than the handcuffs, more than Pike's threats. This emptiness felt like losing her husband all over again. These dogs weren't just her business or her companions. They were the last connection to the life she had built before everything fell apart. Monica pressed her forehead against the cold metal and finally let the tears come, her quiet sobs mixing with the rain as it fell into the empty kennels around her. The next morning, Monica sat across from attorney Denise Carter in a cramped downtown office that smelled of old coffee and legal documents. Rain streaked the windows overlooking the courthouse steps, where protesters often gathered with signs demanding justice. Denise spread Pike's arrest report across her desk, her dark eyes scanning each line with practiced precision. "This doesn't add up," she said, tapping her pen against the paper. "He claims you incited your animals to attack, but then admits they never made contact with either officer. "Because I ordered them to stop," Monica replied, her voice steady despite the exhaustion weighing on her shoulders. "They're trained military K9s. They respond to commands instantly." "Walk me through exactly what happened." Monica recounted the arrest step by step, Pike's aggressive approach, the violent takedown, the dog's protective response. Denise took notes, occasionally asking for clarification about timing and positioning. A knock interrupted them. Ava Morales stepped inside, clutching her phone nervously. "I have video," she announced without preamble. Denise gestured toward an empty chair. "Show me." Ava played the footage on her phone, the small screen displaying Monica's calm demeanor throughout the arrest. The video captured Pike's escalation, Monica's repeated attempts to explain, and most importantly, her single command that instantly controlled both dogs. "This is gold," Denise said, replaying the crucial moment. "You never resisted." The dogs obeyed immediately. Pike's report is completely fabricated. While they reviewed evidence across town at the police station, Pike cornered Boone beside the coffee machine. "Internal Affairs is sniffing around," Pike warned, stirring sugar into his cup with aggressive clinks. "They'll ask you about yesterday." "What should I tell them?" Boone asked, his young face pale with worry. "You tell them exactly what's in our report," Pike replied, stepping closer. "Nothing more, nothing less. Remember, rookie, cops who betray other cops don't last long in this job. You want to spend your career writing parking tickets?" Boone nodded reluctantly, but after Pike walked away, he returned to his desk and pulled up the body cam footage on his computer. Watching it again, he noticed details that bothered him. Monica's genuine confusion, her professional handling of the dogs, the lack of any actual threat. His stomach churned as he realized how different the real events looked compared to Pike's written version. Back at Denise's office, the attorney was explaining the stakes. "Pike's charges triggered an automatic animal control investigation," she said grimly. "They've scheduled behavioral evaluations for your dogs. If those animals are labeled dangerous, they'll kill them," Monica finished, her composure finally cracking. "Yes. And Pike knows it." Monica drove through downtown afterward, her hands gripping the steering wheel until her knuckles went white. She passed the animal control facility and pulled over, staring through the chain-link fence at the concrete runs visible from the street. Her heart stopped when she spotted two familiar shapes behind the steel fencing, her Belgian Malinois pacing restlessly in their temporary prison, waiting for her to bring them home. That same afternoon, local news stations began airing edited reports about the dangerous dog arrest. Channel 7's anchor delivered the story with dramatic flair, her voice dripping with manufactured concern. A Willow Creek Lane resident was arrested yesterday after allegedly attempting to weaponize trained attack dogs against responding police officers, she announced, while grainy footage played behind her. The suspect, Monica Graves, operates an unlicensed dog training business from her residential property. Monica stared at her television screen in disbelief. The news report showed brief clips from Ava's footage, but carefully edited out Monica's calm commands and the dog's immediate obedience. Instead, viewers saw only aggressive barking and officers backing away. Her phone buzzed constantly, text after text from clients. Saw the news, canceling rangers' training sessions. "We can't risk having our kids around dangerous animals. Please don't contact us again." Within 2 hours, Monica lost 6 clients. Her small business was collapsing in real time. Online, the comment sections exploded with vicious hatred. Strangers called her everything from animal abuser to worse terms she refused to read completely. The mob had made up its mind based on Pike's lies and selective footage. Denise called while Monica scrolled through the digital assault. "Don't read that garbage," her attorney warned firmly. "Focus on facts. We have solid evidence." "My business is destroyed," Monica replied, her voice hollow. "Businesses can be rebuilt. Let's save your dogs first." The next morning, Monica arrived at animal control for the behavioral evaluation. Her heart sank when she spotted Pike's patrol car in the parking lot. Through the facility's glass doors, she watched him speaking privately with Dr. Rebecca Martinez, the evaluator. Pike gestured aggressively while talking, his body language threatening even from a distance. Dr. Martinez nodded repeatedly, looking uncomfortable under his pressure. When Monica entered the evaluation room 30 minutes later, her Belgian Malinois greeted her with restrained excitement. Despite the sterile environment and unfamiliar people watching, both dogs performed flawlessly. They sat, stayed, heeled, and responded to every command instantly. Remarkable control, Dr. Martinez admitted quietly to Monica afterward. These are exceptionally well-trained animals, disciplined beyond anything I typically see. For the first time since the arrest, hope flickered in Monica's chest. That evening, however, Denise called with devastating news. "Prosecutors are escalating the charges," she said grimly. "They're claiming your dogs constituted threats against law enforcement. The district attorney wants to make an example." Monica's phone buzzed with a new message. A court notice. Her hands shook as she read the legal language that boiled down to one terrifying reality. Her dogs may be permanently destroyed. Monica woke to the sound of car doors slamming. She peered through her bedroom blinds, and her stomach dropped. 3 news vans lined the street outside her house. Reporters clutched microphones while camera crews adjusted their equipment on her sidewalk. She hadn't slept more than 2 hours. Every time she closed her eyes, she saw her dogs locked behind chain-link fencing at animal control. Her phone buzzed with another missed call from a journalist. She'd stopped answering after the 15th attempt. By noon, the media circus had exploded across every channel. Monica forced herself to watch as talking heads dissected her life on national television. "This woman clearly has anger management issues," declared a former police chief turned commentator. "Using attack dogs against officers represents a dangerous escalation in anti-police sentiment." Another pundit nodded gravely. The fact that she lives alone with multiple large animals raises serious questions about mental stability. They discussed her like she was a criminal mastermind, rather than a woman who'd been unloading dog food in her own driveway. Pike appeared on the local evening news, his chest puffed out with manufactured heroism. "My partner and I prevented what could have been a tragic attack," he said solemnly. These animals were clearly trained to intimidate law enforcement. "We protected the community." The reporter nodded sympathetically. "How did it feel when those dogs charged toward you?" "Terrifying," Pike replied with practiced sincerity. "But we're trained to handle dangerous situations. That's what we do." Monica threw her remote at the television screen. Meanwhile, at the police station, Boone sat in the break room listening to his co-workers joke about the arrest. "Did you see Pike on TV?" Officer Marcus laughed. "Guy's acting like he took down a terrorist cell." "Those dogs were massive," another cop added. "I would have shot them both the second they moved." Boone's coffee tasted like acid. He kept replaying the body cam footage in his mind. Monica never resisted. The dogs stopped instantly when she commanded them. Pike had twisted everything. "Hey, Boone," Marcus called out. "You were there, right? Did she really try to sick those animals on you?" Boone forced a laugh. "Pike handled it perfectly," he lied. Denise filed emergency motions demanding the complete body cam footage from both officers. The department's response came quickly. Technical difficulties had corrupted several key portions of the recordings. The most crucial moments were mysteriously unrecoverable. "Convenient," Denise muttered while reviewing the legal response. That afternoon, Ava knocked softly on Monica's back door. She slipped inside quickly, avoiding the reporters camped out front. "I need to tell you something," Ava said, her voice shaking with anger. "About Greg Heller." She explained how she'd been asking longtime neighbors about the HOA board member. The pattern was disturbing. Over the past 3 years, Greg had filed complaints against 4 different minority families in the neighborhood. The Johnsons moved out after he claimed their teenagers were loitering suspiciously. Ava revealed. The Martinez family left after he reported their family gatherings as noise violations. All of them sold their houses below market value. Monica's jaw tightened. He's been systematically pushing people out. You weren't randomly targeted, Ava confirmed. He's been planning this. Later that evening, Boone paced nervously in the shadowy parking garage beneath the courthouse. When Denise arrived, he could barely make eye contact. "I can't keep doing this," he blurted out. "Pike exaggerated everything in that report." Denise remained calm despite her racing pulse. "Tell me exactly what happened." Boone's hands shook as he spoke. The woman never resisted. Those dogs obeyed her perfectly. Pike just got embarrassed because she stayed so calm while he was yelling. This isn't the first time Pike has done this, is it? Boone looked around the empty garage fearfully. He always finds ways to justify excessive force after the fact. He coaches newer officers on how to write reports that protect us. Will you testify to that officially? I can't, Boone whispered. The Union would destroy me. Pike has connections everywhere in the department. I'd never work in law enforcement again. Denise pressed harder. An innocent woman's dogs are going to die because of lies. Boone's face crumpled with guilt, but fear won out. I'm sorry. I just can't. The next morning, Monica found the certified letter wedged in her front door. Her hands trembled as she tore open the envelope. The euthanasia hearing for her Belgian Malinois was scheduled in 3 days. That evening, Ava sat at her small kitchen table with her phone plugged into her laptop. The fluorescent light above cast harsh shadows across her tired face as she stared at the video file she'd been carrying for days. Her finger hovered over the upload button. This could destroy my life, she whispered to herself, but doing nothing will definitely destroy hers. She clicked upload. The video appeared first on her personal social media account with a simple caption. This is what really happened on Willow Creek Lane. Watch the whole thing. Within minutes, friends began sharing the footage. Within an hour, it had spread to neighborhood groups and local community pages. By midnight, the video was racing across the internet like wildfire. The footage was devastating in its clarity. Monica knelt calmly beside her SUV, hands visible, voice controlled. Pike grabbed her aggressively before she could even stand fully upright. The dogs charged across the lawn, barking fiercely. But the moment Monica shouted, "Stay!" they froze like statues. Not aggressive, obedient. The contrast between Monica's military precision and Pike's panicked fumbling for his weapon was impossible to ignore. By dawn, the video had been viewed 3 million times. Morning news programs played it on repeat. Social media exploded with outrage against Pike. Comments flooded in defending Monica's professionalism and questioning the police department's version of events. Those dogs responded better than most human officers would. One viral comment read, "She controlled the situation while Pike lost his mind," said another. Former military colleagues began publicly vouching for Monica's character. A retired Army K9 handler posted a detailed explanation of the dog's tactical training, emphasizing how Monica's single command prevented any actual confrontation. Monica Graves trained some of the best working dogs I've ever seen overseas, the post read. If she wanted those animals to attack, those officers would be in the hospital. Instead, she protected everyone involved. The momentum shifted overnight. Protesters began gathering outside the police station before sunrise, holding signs demanding Pike's suspension. News trucks lined the streets. Reporters shouted questions at every officer entering the building. Monica watched the coverage from Denise's office, afraid to feel hopeful, but unable to suppress the growing relief in her chest. This changes everything, Denise said confidently. Internal Affairs can't ignore public pressure like this. Her phone rang immediately. Captain Harper from Internal Affairs wanted to meet that afternoon to discuss opening a formal investigation into Pike's conduct. We're getting somewhere, Monica breathed. Meanwhile, Boone sat in his patrol car, scrolling through the viral video comments. Guilt crashed over him in waves as he read strangers defending Monica's character while he stayed silent about Pike's lies. His phone buzzed with a text from Denise. "The video proves what you already told me. Now's your chance to do the right thing, officially." Boone stared at the message for 20 minutes before finally responding. "I'll provide partial testimony. But I need protection from retaliation." Outside the police station, Pike pushed through the crowd of reporters aggressively. Cameras followed him as microphones thrust toward his face. "Officer Pike, did you watch the viral video? Do you still claim Monica Graves threatened you? Will you apologize for the false arrest?" Pike's face burned red with fury. "No comment. The department will release an official statement." But his hands shook with rage as he stormed inside. Greg Heller wasn't faring any better. Neighbors had connected his 911 call to the arrest, and several residents were publicly accusing him of deliberately lying to police. "You wanted her gone because she's black," one neighbor shouted outside the mailboxes. "We all know what you really are." Greg retreated to his house and closed all the blinds. That afternoon, Pike sat across from his union representative in a sterile conference room. The older man reviewed notes while Pike paced frantically. "This video is destroying us," Pike said. "The whole department looks incompetent." "Calm down," the representative replied smoothly. "Public outrage fades quickly. We just need to control the narrative before the hearing." "How?" The union rep smiled coldly. "We emphasize officer safety. We focus on the threat those dogs represented, regardless of how they were controlled afterward. We make this about protecting police from dangerous animals." Pike nodded eagerly. "I can work with that." "Good. But we need insurance. Something that guarantees the hearing goes our way." "What kind of insurance?" The representative leaned forward. "You still have access to evidence files, right?" Late that night, Pike used his keycard to enter the evidence room alone. Security cameras recorded him accessing computer terminals, but nobody questioned his presence. He pulled up the body cam files from Monica's arrest. His fingers moved quickly across the keyboard. The next morning, Monica and Denise walked through the sterile hallways of Internal Affairs headquarters. Fluorescent lights hummed overhead, while their footsteps echoed against polished floors. Monica wore her best navy blazer, the same one she'd worn to her husband's memorial service years earlier. "Remember," Denise whispered as they approached the conference room, "Harper called this meeting for a reason. She wouldn't waste our time unless she found something important." Captain Elise Harper stood waiting behind a metal desk covered with manila folders. Her gray hair was pulled back severely, and her sharp eyes studied Monica with professional curiosity rather than judgment. "Ms. Graves, Ms. Carter," Harper said, gesturing toward chairs. "Thank you for coming. What I'm about to share with you cannot leave this room until we decide how to proceed officially." Denise leaned forward. "What did you find?" Harper opened the thickest folder. "Officer Pike has been connected to 3 previous arrests involving mysteriously missing body cam footage. Each case followed an identical pattern." Monica's stomach tightened. "What kind of pattern?" "Aggressive arrests, missing evidence, victims who were pressured into accepting settlements or pleading guilty to avoid worse charges." Harper pulled out photographs and police reports. The first victim was a construction worker named Marcus Williams. Pike claimed Williams resisted arrest during a traffic stop. The body cam footage conveniently malfunctioned at the crucial moment. "What happened to him?" Monica asked quietly. "Williams accepted a settlement and moved out of state. He refuses to discuss the case publicly." Harper turned to another file. The second case involved a single father named Roberto Santos. Pike arrested him for allegedly threatening his ex-wife, but the body cam footage from the scene disappeared from department servers. Denise studied the reports. "Let me guess. Santos lost custody of his children?" "Exactly. He spent 2 years fighting false charges while his kids lived with relatives. By the time the case was dismissed, the family court had already made permanent custody arrangements." Harper's voice carried quiet anger. "Santos lost everything because he couldn't prove Pike lied." Monica felt sick. "And the third case?" A college student named Jessica Park. Pike claimed she was drunk and disorderly outside a campus bar, but witnesses said she was completely sober. The body cam footage from that night mysteriously corrupted during evidence transfer. This is a pattern, Denise said firmly. Pike systematically destroys evidence to protect himself. Harper nodded grimly. 3 cases, 3 missing videos, 3 lives destroyed by lies that couldn't be challenged in court. Why wasn't this investigated before? Monica demanded. Because each case was handled separately by different supervisors. Nobody connected the dots until your attorney started asking questions about Pike's misconduct history. Harper closed the folders. This department has protected Pike for years, but I won't let it continue. Monica stared at the files. Those people never got justice. No, Harper admitted. But you might be different. Your case has public attention. The viral video proves Pike lied. If we can expose his pattern of evidence tampering, we can reopen every case he contaminated. Denise pulled out her phone. We need to contact those other victims immediately. That won't be easy, Harper warned. They're terrified of retaliation. Williams won't even return phone calls from attorneys. Across town, Pike sat in the police station's media room with his union representative and a local news producer. Edited body cam clips played on multiple monitors while Pike provided careful commentary. Listen to her voice, Pike said, pointing at the screen. She's clearly agitated and commanding those animals aggressively. Without proper context, people can't understand how threatening this situation was for officers. The producer nodded while taking notes. This footage definitely changes the narrative. Pike smiled coldly. Exactly. The public needs to understand that trained attack dogs responding to hostile commands represent a deadly threat, regardless of how they eventually stopped. The edited clips showed Monica's voice raised with urgency as the dogs barked loudly. Without the full context revealing she was commanding them to stay back, the footage appeared ominous and threatening. We'll have this on air within the hour, the producer promised. Meanwhile, in the station parking garage, Pike cornered Boone beside his patrol car. The concrete structure echoed with Pike's harsh whisper. I heard you've been talking to Internal Affairs, Pike said, stepping closer. That's disappointing, Tyler. Really disappointing. Boone's hands trembled as he fumbled with his car keys. I don't know what you mean. Don't lie to me. Pike's voice dropped dangerously low. Remember your first month here? Remember that incident with the evidence locker mix-up? The one where you accidentally logged cocaine as marijuana? Boone went pale. That was an honest mistake. You said... I said I'd handle it quietly. And I did. But paperwork mistakes like that can destroy careers if they surface during misconduct investigations. Pike leaned against Boone's car, blocking his escape. Especially when they suggest an officer might have been sampling confiscated drugs. That's not what happened. Doesn't matter what actually happened. Matters what it looks like on paper. Pike pulled out his phone and showed Boone a photograph of the original evidence log with Boone's signature. Funny how these files can resurface when Internal Affairs starts digging through old records. Boone stared at the image in horror. You're threatening me. I'm reminding you about loyalty. About what happens to officers who betray their partners. Pike straightened up and smiled coldly. Think carefully about your testimony, Tyler. Some mistakes can't be undone. By evening, the edited body cam footage was playing on every local news channel. Anchors who had defended Monica just days earlier now questioned her credibility. This new footage raises serious concerns about what really happened during the arrest, one reporter said gravely. Was Monica Graves actually the victim, or was she manipulating public perception? Monica watched from her empty living room as her reputation crumbled again. Her phone buzzed constantly with clients canceling contracts and neighbors expressing disappointment. Then Denise called with devastating news. Monica, I need you to sit down, Denise said carefully. I just found out who's assigned to judge your case. Who? Judge Patricia Hendricks. She's been on the bench for 15 years, and she has close ties to Pike's police union. Her husband is their former legal counsel, and she's ruled in favor of officers in every misconduct case that's come before her court. Monica closed her eyes. They rigged this from the beginning. It looks that way. Hendricks will dismiss any evidence that makes Pike look bad, and she'll give full weight to anything that supports the police version of events. So we can't win. Not in her courtroom. Not unless we find something so overwhelming that even she can't ignore it. Rain hammered the courthouse steps as Monica pushed through the crowd of reporters and protesters. Camera flashes exploded around her face while microphones thrust toward her mouth. Monica, did you train your dogs to attack police? Are you anti-cop? Should dangerous animals be allowed in residential neighborhoods? Denise gripped Monica's arm and guided her through the chaos. Don't say anything. Keep walking. Inside the courthouse, the atmosphere felt equally hostile. Prosecutors had arrived early and filled the gallery with supporters. Monica noticed several off-duty officers sitting in the front rows, their presence clearly meant to intimidate. Judge Patricia Hendricks took the bench with cold efficiency. She was a thin woman with sharp features and gray hair pulled into a severe bun. Her eyes showed no warmth when they settled on Monica. This preliminary hearing will address the charges against Ms. Graves and the ongoing animal control matter, Judge Hendricks announced. Prosecution may proceed. District Attorney James Morrison rose confidently. He was a career politician with ambitions for higher office, and this case had given him significant media attention. Your Honor, the defendant deliberately used military-trained attack dogs to threaten law enforcement officers performing their lawful duties, Morrison declared. The evidence clearly shows calculated intimidation tactics designed to prevent arrest. He played the edited body cam footage on the courtroom's large screen. Without context, Monica's commands to the dogs appeared aggressive. The dogs' barking sounded vicious. These are not ordinary pets, Morrison continued. These are weapons trained by the defendant during military service. She knew exactly how dangerous they were when she unleashed them against Officers Pike and Boone. Monica watched jurors' faces change as they absorbed the manipulated footage. Several looked at her with obvious fear and disgust. Denise stood immediately. Objection, Your Honor. This footage has been edited and taken out of context. We request access to the complete body cam files to present the full picture of what occurred. Overruled, Judge Hendricks said curtly. The prosecution's evidence speaks for itself. Your Honor, we also request a delay in the animal destruction hearing pending resolution of these charges, Denise pressed. The defendant's dogs passed their behavioral evaluation and showed no signs of aggression. Request denied. Animal Control's timeline will proceed as scheduled. Monica felt the walls closing in around her. Every legal avenue was being blocked systematically. Officer Pike took the witness stand with obvious confidence. He wore his dress uniform and spoke in measured, professional tones. I've been serving this community for 15 years, Pike testified. I've never encountered such a deliberate attempt to intimidate officers. Ms. Graves remained completely calm while her dogs charged toward us. That level of control over dangerous animals shows premeditation. In your opinion, were you and Officer Boone in physical danger? Morrison asked. Absolutely. Those dogs were trained killers. If Ms. Graves had given different commands, we could have been seriously injured or killed. Pike's testimony was smooth and convincing. He painted Monica as a calculated threat who used military training for criminal purposes. When Denise cross-examined Pike, Judge Hendricks repeatedly sustained prosecution objections and limited her questioning. Officer Pike, how many excessive force complaints have been filed against you? Denise asked. Objection. Irrelevant. Sustained. Have you ever been accused of filing false reports? Objection. Sustained. By afternoon, Monica's business license was officially suspended pending investigation. The judge ruled that someone facing charges for threatening officers could not operate a K9 training facility. Outside the courthouse, The media storm intensified. Former clients approached reporters to distance themselves publicly from Monica's business. "I had no idea she was dangerous," one client said on camera. "Thank God my children weren't around those attack dogs." Greg Heller appeared on the evening news, looking satisfied and self-righteous. "Willow Creek Lane is finally becoming safe again," he told reporters. "We tried warning people about her for months, but nobody listened. Now, maybe families with young children can feel secure in their own neighborhood." That evening, Monica sat across from Denise in the attorney's downtown office. Rain streaked the windows while street lights cast long shadows across the room. "I have to be honest with you," Denise said quietly. "This system is completely rigged. Hendricks won't let us present real evidence. Pike's testimony was rehearsed perfectly. The prosecution has unlimited resources, while we're fighting with one hand tied behind our backs." Monica stared at her hands. "Maybe I should just plead guilty. Take whatever deal they offer. At least save myself from complete financial ruin." "Monica, don't—" "Look at the facts, Denise. My dogs are scheduled for destruction in 3 days. My business is destroyed. My reputation is gone. Even if we somehow win this case, I'll never recover from what they've done to me." Monica's voice broke slightly. "Maybe Greg Heller was right. Maybe I don't belong in that neighborhood anymore." Denise reached across the table. "That's exactly what they want you to think. Pike and his corrupt friends want you broken and defeated so they can keep getting away with this. But what if we can't prove anything? What if they're too powerful?" Monica drove home through empty streets feeling completely defeated. Her house sat dark and quiet, without the familiar sounds of her dogs greeting her return. In the kitchen, she spread military paperwork across the table, old records from her K9 training days overseas. She needed documentation of her credentials for Denise's appeals. As she sorted through certificates and service records, one name caught her attention on a complaint form she'd never seen before: Leonard Velez. The name appeared on a witness statement from one of Pike's previous excessive force cases. Velez had been listed as a city IT contractor who managed police server backups during the incident. Monica stared at the paperwork, her heart suddenly racing. The following morning, Monica and Ava drove across town through neighborhoods that grew steadily more industrial. Auto repair shops and small warehouses lined the streets as they searched for Leonard Velez's address. "There," Ava pointed to a weathered sign reading Velez Auto and Electronics, above a small garage with peeling paint. They parked beside rusted car parts scattered across a gravel lot. The building looked abandoned except for a faded open sign hanging crooked in the front window. Monica pushed through the heavy glass door, setting off a harsh bell. The smell of motor oil and old coffee filled the cramped waiting area. Behind a cluttered counter, a thin man in his 60s looked up from a computer screen. "We're closed for repairs today," Leonard Velez said without looking directly at them. "Mr. Velez, my name is Monica Graves. I think you might remember my case from the police department files." Leonard's hands froze over the keyboard. His eyes darted nervously between Monica and Ava. "I don't know what you're talking about," he said quickly. "I haven't worked for the city in years." "Please," Monica said. "I saw your name on a witness statement. You handled police server backups during Pike's previous excessive force complaints." Leonard stood abruptly, nearly knocking over his coffee cup. "You need to leave. Now." "Mr. Velez, they're going to kill my dogs in 2 days," Monica said, her voice steady but desperate. "Pike filed a false report claiming I'd tried to attack officers with trained animals. Animal control is scheduling them for destruction based on his lies. I can't help you." Leonard moved toward the door. "I stayed quiet for good reasons. The department doesn't forget people who cause problems." Ava stepped forward. "Those officers pinned her to the ground in front of her own house for no reason. I watched the whole thing happen. Pike escalated everything because he was embarrassed. That's not my problem." "It is your problem," Monica said firmly. "Because you've seen this before. How many other people did Pike hurt while you stayed silent? How many lives were destroyed because evidence disappeared? Leonard's face went pale. You don't understand what you're asking. I understand perfectly. I'm asking you to finally do the right thing. Monica's voice grew stronger. These dogs aren't just pets. They're military working animals I trained with my husband before he died overseas. They saved lives in combat zones. They've never hurt anyone except enemy soldiers trying to kill American troops. Leonard stared at the floor, his hands shaking slightly. Pike is destroying them to cover up his own corruption, Monica continued. 2 innocent animals are going to die because a coward with a badge can't admit he was wrong. Even if I wanted to help, Leonard whispered. The files are probably gone by now. Are they? Ava asked. Really? Leonard looked up at her. What do you mean? You managed those servers for years. You know how the system works better than anyone. Is the footage really gone forever? Leonard was quiet for a long moment. Finally, he walked to the window and peered through the blinds at the empty street outside. The police server system automatically archived deleted footage before permanent removal, he said quietly. It was a backup safety measure in case of technical failures or legal demands. Monica felt her heart racing. Does Pike know about the archives? Probably not. Most officers never understood the technical side. They just assumed deleting files made them disappear forever. Leonard turned back to them, his face torn with conflict. I have archived drives in a storage unit behind the garage. Old backup files from multiple investigations. But accessing them would be... He paused. It would be very risky for all of us. More risky than letting Pike destroy innocent lives? Monica asked. Leonard stared at her for a long moment. Finally, he grabbed a set of keys from behind the counter. Follow me. They walked behind the garage to a small storage unit hidden between overgrown weeds and rusted equipment. Leonard unlocked the metal door and pulled it open, revealing shelves lined with computer drives and old server equipment. This could take hours, he warned, and if we're caught... We won't be, Monica said. Leonard connected drives to a laptop, while Ava kept watch by the door. The computer screen flickered as files loaded from archives dating back several years. Here, Leonard said, pointing at folder names with dates matching Monica's arrest. This should contain the original body cam footage from both officers. He clicked the first file. The screen filled with video from Pike's body cam showing the moments before the arrest. Monica watched herself kneeling beside the SUV, completely focused on unloading dog food bags. But this footage contained audio the edited version had removed. Pike's voice came through the speakers clearly. Look at this one, acting all high and mighty in the suburbs. Bet she thinks she's better than everyone else on this street. Boone's voice responded, Should we just talk to her first? Nah, time to show her how things work around here. Monica's hands clenched as she watched Pike approach her aggressively without any attempt at normal questioning. The footage continued, showing Pike grabbing her arm and forcing her against the SUV, while she remained completely calm and cooperative. Please tell me why I'm being detained, Monica's voice said on the recording. Because I said so, Pike replied, twisting her wrist harder. The camera captured Monica's controlled breathing and measured responses, while Pike grew increasingly frustrated with her composure. Think you're tough, don't you? Pike muttered as he forced her to the pavement. We'll see about that. Then came the moment when her dogs burst through the gate. The unedited footage clearly showed Monica immediately commanding the animals to stop before they reached the officers. The dogs instantly obeyed, remaining motionless while Pike and Boone panicked. But most damaging was the audio after Monica was restrained. Pike's voice, thinking the microphone was muted. That'll teach her not to act superior around here. Arrogant woman needed to be put in her place. Boone's nervous response. Man, those dogs were really well trained. Maybe we should... Should what? Let her think she can intimidate cops? Not happening. She's getting charged with everything I can think of. Monica watched the recovered footage in stunned silence as tears filled her eyes. That same night, Denise gathered Monica, Ava, and Leonard inside her office to prepare for the final hearing. The law office felt cramped with 4 people crowded around Denise's desk, but the tension made the space feel even smaller. Leonard's laptop sat open, displaying the recovered footage that could destroy Pike's career and save Monica's dogs. "We make copies of everything," Denise said, inserting multiple flash drives into the computer. "Multiple copies. Different locations. Pike's already proven he'll destroy evidence." Her fingers moved quickly across the keyboard as files transferred. Monica watched the progress bars fill while Ava paced near the window. "How many copies?" Leonard asked nervously. 6 drives, 1 for court, 1 for internal affairs, 1 for the media, and 3 backups, Denise replied. "If even 1 drive survives, Pike's finished." Monica stared at the laptop screen showing Pike's frozen face from the body cam footage. "Will this really be enough?" "It's everything," Denise said. "His own words, his own actions. No jury in the world would side with him after seeing this." The office phone rang. Denise answered quickly. "Carter here." Her expression changed as she listened. "Yes, Captain Harper. Thank you for calling back." Monica straightened in her chair. Captain Harper was Internal Affairs. "She reviewed the footage," Denise whispered, covering the phone. "She wants to attend tomorrow's hearing personally." "Is that good?" Ava asked. "It means she believes us," Denise replied, then spoke into the phone again. "Yes, Captain. We'll see you there." She hung up and turned back to the group. "Harper said Pike's been calling union lawyers all evening. He knows something's wrong." Meanwhile, across town at the police station, Pike paced frantically in the break room while Boone sat slumped in a plastic chair. Empty coffee cups and crumpled papers covered the table between them. "Someone recovered those files," Pike said, his voice sharp with panic. "Internal Affairs wouldn't reopen archive investigations unless they found something." Boone stared at his hands. "Maybe we should just—" "Should what?" Pike exploded. "Admit we lied? Destroy our careers? You want to throw away everything we've worked for?" "We destroyed her life over nothing," Boone shouted back, finally snapping. "She never did anything wrong." Pike's face turned red. "You're betraying the department after everything I taught you." "You taught me to lie." Boone stood up, knocking his chair backward. "You manipulated every report for years. I watched you do it." The break room fell silent except for the buzzing fluorescent lights overhead. "I maintained order," Pike said coldly. "I kept the streets safe. That woman thinks she's better than us because she had some military training." "She is better than us," Boone whispered. "Look what we did to her." Pike stepped closer, his voice dropping to a threatening whisper. "If you testify against me tomorrow, your career dies. I'll make sure every department in the state knows you can't be trusted." Boone looked up with tears in his eyes. "My career's already dead. I can't live with this anymore." He walked out, leaving Pike alone in the fluorescent-lit room. Back at Denise's office, Monica prepared to leave for one final visit to animal control. "I need to see them tonight." "It's late," Leonard worried. "Will they let you in?" "They have to," Monica said. "Those dogs have been locked up for weeks because of Pike's lies." She drove through empty streets toward the animal control facility, her heart heavy with the weight of everything that had happened. At the building, a security guard reluctantly allowed her inside after checking her identification. Monica walked down the concrete hallway lined with metal kennels. Barking echoed from every direction, but it stopped when she reached her dog's enclosure. Ranger and Duke pressed against the chain-link fencing, their tails wagging despite weeks of confinement. They remained perfectly calm and obedient, even in this stressful environment. "I'm bringing you home tomorrow," Monica whispered through the fence. "I promise." The dogs sat quietly, watching her with intelligent eyes that seemed to understand every word. "You've been so good," she continued, her voice breaking slightly. "So patient. Just one more day." Ranger tilted his head, the same way he used to when her husband would speak to him during training exercises overseas. The memory strengthened Monica's resolve. She stayed until the security guard warned her the building was closing. Walking back through the parking lot, Monica felt more determined than she had in weeks. Tomorrow, Pike would face the truth. Tomorrow, justice would finally be served. As Monica left animal control, an unmarked police car slowly began following her home. The courthouse steps swarmed with reporters and protesters as dawn broke over the city. News vans lined the street 3 deep, their satellite dishes reaching toward the gray morning sky. Camera crews jostled for position, while anchors delivered breathless updates to national audiences. This is Channel 7 News, where the controversial case of Monica Graves reaches its climax today, announced a blonde reporter, her voice cutting through the crowd noise. The woman accused of using trained attack dogs against police officers will face final judgment in just minutes. Counter-protesters held signs reading, "Justice for Monica," and "End police brutality," while others shouted, "Back the blue," and "Dangerous dogs kill." The tension crackled like electricity through the morning air. Inside the courthouse, security guards struggled to maintain order as spectators packed every available seat. The hearing room buzzed with nervous energy, while bailiffs checked identification and searched bags at multiple checkpoints. Officer Pike strutted through the courthouse doors, flanked by 3 union lawyers in expensive suits. His chest puffed out confidently as department representatives surrounded him like a protective wall. Pike straightened his uniform and smiled at reporters, playing the role of a heroic officer facing false accusations. "Officer Pike has served this community faithfully for over 15 years, declared his lead attorney to the gathered media. "Today, we'll prove he acted appropriately when confronted by a dangerous individual who weaponized military-trained animals against law enforcement." Pike nodded gravely, his performance polished from weeks of preparation. He waved to supporters in the crowd before entering the hearing room with theatrical confidence. Monica arrived minutes later through a side entrance, walking calmly beside Denise while cameras flashed around them. She wore a simple navy blazer and kept her expression composed, despite the chaos surrounding her. Behind them, Ava adjusted her nurse's uniform nervously, Leonard clutched a briefcase containing backup drives, and Captain Harper walked with military precision in her dress uniform. The hearing room fell silent as they took their seats at the defendant's table. Monica sat straight-backed and focused, her hands folded calmly in her lap. The contrast between her quiet dignity and Pike's showboating was impossible to miss. Judge Hendricks called the session to order, her black robes flowing as she settled behind the bench. The silver-haired woman had a reputation for fairness, but everyone knew about her long friendship with the police union president. "We're here to determine the facts surrounding the arrest of Monica Graves," Judge Hendricks announced. "Prosecutors may begin." District Attorney Rebecca Walsh stood confidently, her red suit commanding attention. "Your Honor, we'll prove the defendant deliberately used military-trained attack dogs to threaten and intimidate police officers lawfully performing their duties." The courtroom monitor displayed the edited body cam footage once again. The manipulated clips showed Monica shouting commands while her dogs barked aggressively toward the officers. Without full context, the footage appeared damning. "As you can see," Walsh continued, "the defendant's actions created a dangerous situation that could have resulted in serious injury or death to our brave officers." Pike took the witness stand with practiced confidence, his uniform pressed and medals gleaming under the courtroom lights. He spoke dramatically about fearing for his life during the arrest, describing Monica's dogs as weapons of intimidation used against lawful authority. "She remained defiant throughout the entire encounter," Pike testified, his voice trembling with manufactured emotion. "Those animals were clearly trained to attack on command. I genuinely believed my life was in danger." Greg Heller followed Pike to the witness stand, wearing his most expensive suit and speaking in carefully measured tones. He painted Monica as a neighborhood menace who frightened families and damaged property values with her aggressive animals. "She's been a problem for years," Heller declared solemnly. "Parents were afraid to let their children play outside because of those dogs." The entire community lived in fear. Judge Hendricks nodded sympathetically as Heller described fabricated incidents of Monica threatening neighbors and allowing her dogs to roam freely. The performance was polished and believable to anyone unfamiliar with the truth. In the back row, Officer Boone sat sweating heavily despite the air conditioning. His hands trembled as media cameras occasionally focused on him, and his face had gone pale with anxiety. He kept glancing toward Pike, then toward Monica, visibly torn between loyalty and conscience. Denise remained calm throughout the prosecution's presentation, occasionally taking notes but never objecting. She allowed them to build their entire case on lies and manipulation, knowing the truth would be more devastating when revealed. When the prosecution finished, Denise rose slowly from her chair. The courtroom held its breath as she approached the judge's bench with quiet confidence. "Your Honor," Denise said clearly, "before presenting our defense, I'd like to request permission to introduce newly recovered evidence that directly contradicts everything the prosecution just claimed." Pike visibly stiffened in his chair. His confident expression flickered for the first time all morning. "What kind of evidence?" Judge Hendricks asked suspiciously. "Original, unedited body cam footage recovered directly from archived police servers," Denise announced. "Footage that proves Officer Pike committed perjury, falsified reports, and deliberately manipulated evidence to hide his misconduct." The courtroom erupted in shocked murmurs. Pike's lawyers immediately began whispering frantically among themselves, while Pike's face drained of color. "This evidence was deliberately hidden from previous proceedings," Denise continued. "But through the courage of those who refuse to let corruption prevail, the truth has finally been recovered." Judge Hendricks hesitated, clearly uncomfortable with this unexpected development. The media cameras focused intently on her face as she weighed her decision. "I'll allow the evidence to be presented," she ruled finally. Pike gripped his chair's armrest so tightly his knuckles turned white. Boone looked like he might vomit. In the gallery, Captain Harper sat forward with grim satisfaction. The courtroom lights dimmed as Denise inserted the recovered drive into the courtroom monitor. Silence filled the courtroom as the unedited body cam footage began playing on the large screen. Every person in the packed gallery leaned forward, eyes fixed on the monitor, as the truth finally emerged from months of lies and manipulation. The footage started with Pike and Boone speeding down Willow Creek Lane, their squad cars screeching to a halt outside Monica's home. The audio captured Pike's voice clearly through his body microphone. "Finally gonna deal with this problem," Pike muttered to Boone as they stepped out of their vehicles. "Heller says she's been asking for this for months." On screen, Monica appeared exactly as she had that afternoon, calm, controlled, simply unloading dog food bags from her SUV. She looked up with mild confusion as the officers approached aggressively, her hands visible and empty at all times. "Excuse me, officers," Monica's voice came through the courtroom speakers. "Is there a problem?" But Pike grabbed her arm immediately, twisting it behind her back without explanation or warning. The footage showed him slamming her against the SUV's hood with unnecessary force, while she remained completely compliant. "Ma'am, you're under arrest for attempted theft," Pike announced, pressing her face against the metal. "I live here," Monica replied calmly, never struggling or resisting. "This is my property. Please let me show you my identification." The courtroom watched in horrified silence as Pike forced Monica to the pavement in front of her own driveway. Boone knelt beside her legs, while Pike pressed his knee into her back, despite her complete cooperation throughout the entire encounter. "You're making a mistake," Monica said clearly, her voice steady even while being restrained. "Please step away from my property. Let me call my attorney." Pike's response chilled everyone in the courtroom. "Shut up. You don't give orders here." The footage continued, showing Monica repeatedly asking why she was being detained, speaking respectfully despite the officer's aggressive treatment. She never raised her voice. She never threatened anyone. She simply asked for basic explanations that Pike refused to provide. Then came the most devastating portion of the recording. After Monica's dogs had charged from the backyard and stopped at her command, the camera captured Pike and Boone walking back toward their vehicles. Pike believed his microphone was turned off, but the system continued recording everything. "Bet she won't act so calm next time," Pike bragged to Boone. "Gonna make an example out of this one. Show the whole neighborhood what happens when people don't show proper respect." Gasps spread through the courtroom gallery. Several reporters frantically scribbled notes, while others typed rapidly on their phones. Monica closed her eyes, feeling vindicated but heartbroken that such cruelty had been directed at her for no reason other than Pike's ego. The footage then revealed the original 911 dispatch audio that had triggered the entire incident. Greg Heller's voice came through the speakers clearly, and his lies unraveled in real time. "I want to report a suspicious person stealing packages," Heller had told the dispatcher. "She's been casing houses all week. Looks dangerous. Might be armed." But the body cam footage proved Monica had never approached any other houses. She had been on her own property the entire time, simply carrying her own groceries and dog supplies from her vehicle to her front door. The courtroom erupted in angry murmurs as people realized the arrest had been based on completely fabricated accusations designed specifically to target Monica. Judge Hendricks called for order, but the damage was irreversible. Pike's entire narrative had crumbled publicly in front of dozens of witnesses, media cameras, and legal officials who could no longer ignore the obvious corruption. In the back row, Officer Boone suddenly stood up with tears streaming down his face. "I can't do this anymore," Boone announced to the stunned courtroom. "Officer Pike pressured me to support false reports. He told me if I didn't back his story, he'd destroy my career and make sure I never worked in law enforcement again." Pike shot to his feet, his face twisted with rage. "You little coward! You swore an oath to protect fellow officers." "I swore an oath to serve and protect citizens," Boone shot back, "not to help you abuse innocent people." Pike completely lost control, screaming across the courtroom. "She got what she deserved. People like her need to learn respect." "Officer Pike!" Judge Hendricks shouted, banging her gavel repeatedly. But Pike was beyond reason, pointing furiously at Monica while cameras rolled. "You think you're better than everyone else? Walking around with those attack dogs like you own the neighborhood?" Denise remained seated calmly while Pike destroyed himself publicly. Captain Harper immediately stood and signaled to uniformed officers stationed near the courtroom exits. "Remove Officer Pike from this courtroom immediately," Harper ordered sharply. "He's clearly unfit for duty." Two officers moved toward Pike, but he continued screaming as they approached. "This whole hearing is a setup. You're all against us." The officers grabbed Pike's arms as he thrashed wildly, his voice echoing through the courthouse hallways, even as they dragged him toward the exit. "I'll fight this. You can't destroy my career over some lying." The courtroom doors slammed shut, cutting off Pike's final outburst. Reporters rushed from their seats, racing toward the exits to broadcast the scandal live to waiting news crews outside the building. The courtroom footage spread across television networks within minutes of Pike's explosive breakdown. CNN, Fox News, and local stations replayed the devastating body cam evidence on endless loops, while legal experts analyzed the shocking corruption exposure live on air. "This represents one of the most dramatic courtroom collapses we've witnessed," declared veteran legal analyst Sarah Martinez on Channel 7 News. Officer Pike literally destroyed his own defense while cameras rolled. Outside the downtown police station, protesters gathered in growing numbers. Signs reading, "Justice for Monica" and "Fire corrupt cops" filled the sidewalks as chants echoed off the building walls. "No more cover-ups! No more lies!" Hundreds of voices shouted in unison. Inside the station, chaos consumed every floor. Captain Harper moved swiftly through the hallways, her jaw set with determination, as she coordinated with internal affairs investigators who had arrived within an hour of the courtroom disaster. "Suspend Officer Pike immediately," Harper ordered Lieutenant Rodriguez. "Full suspension without pay, pending criminal investigation." Pike sat handcuffed in a holding cell, his earlier bravado completely shattered. The weight of his public breakdown had finally hit him. His career was over. His reputation was destroyed. And state investigators were already preparing criminal charges. At the courthouse, State Prosecutor Angela Ross announced the charges against Pike in a packed press conference. Officer Darren Pike faces multiple felony counts, including evidence tampering, filing false police reports, and civil rights violations under federal law. Greg Heller was arrested at his suburban home 2 hours later. Neighbors watched silently as officers led him away in handcuffs, while news cameras captured every moment. The HOA board member who had sparked the entire scandal now faced his own criminal charges for filing false police reports and witness manipulation. Mr. Heller deliberately provided false information to law enforcement with the intent to harm an innocent citizen, Prosecutor Ross explained to reporters. These actions represent a serious abuse of the emergency response system. Officer Boone sat across from internal affairs investigators in a sterile interview room, his hands shaking as he signed a disciplinary agreement. In exchange for his cooperation in multiple investigations tied to Pike's past arrests, Boone would face suspension and mandatory retraining rather than criminal prosecution. "I should have spoken up years ago," Boone admitted to Captain Harper after signing the documents. "I knew Pike was wrong, but I was scared of losing everything." Harper's expression remained stern, but not unsympathetic. "Fear doesn't excuse enabling abuse, Officer Boone. But your decision to finally tell the truth may help other victims get justice." Back in the courthouse, Judge Hendricks called the session to order one final time. The gallery remained packed with supporters, media, and legal observers waiting for the formal conclusion. Based on the evidence presented today, all charges against Ms. Monica Graves are hereby dismissed with prejudice, Judge Hendricks announced clearly. The court finds no evidence of wrongdoing and condemns the false accusations that led to this arrest. The courtroom erupted in applause as Monica closed her eyes and felt the crushing weight of weeks finally lifting from her shoulders. At Animal Control, Director Sarah Williams personally signed the release papers clearing Monica's dogs completely. After reviewing the actual footage, these animals demonstrated exceptional training and discipline, Williams stated to waiting reporters. The euthanasia order is permanently canceled. Monica walked through the Animal Control gates 30 minutes later, her heart pounding as two familiar shapes raced toward her across the concrete yard. The first Belgian Malinois, Ranger, pressed his massive head against her chest while Monica wrapped her arms around his neck. The second dog, Duke, stood protectively beside them both, her alert eyes scanning the gathered crowd. For the first time since the nightmare began, Monica allowed herself to breathe freely again. Her dogs were safe. Her name was cleared. And the corrupt officers who had tried to destroy her life were finally facing consequences. That evening, as sunset painted the sky orange and purple, Monica walked slowly down Willow Creek Lane, with Ranger and Duke walking calmly beside her. Several weeks later, Monica's rebuilt K9 training center held its grand reopening on Willow Creek Lane. The morning air buzzed with excitement as families, veterans, and curious neighbors gathered outside the freshly renovated facility that now occupied Monica's expanded property. Colorful banners stretched across the front yard reading, "Graves K9 Training Academy, Grand Reopening." The modest suburban home had been transformed into a professional training center with outdoor obstacle courses, agility equipment, and specialized exercise areas visible behind newly installed fencing. Ava Morales rushed between registration tables and demonstration areas, her ER nurse organizational skills proving invaluable for coordinating the event. She wore a volunteer T-shirt and carried a clipboard thick with appointment requests from potential clients. "Monica, Channel 7 wants an interview in 15 minutes, Ava called out while directing a family toward the puppy training information booth. And Mrs. Patterson from down the street brought homemade cookies for everyone. Local news crews positioned cameras around the property as reporters prepared to cover Monica's remarkable comeback story. The same woman who had been violently arrested and publicly humiliated weeks earlier now stood as a symbol of resilience and justice served. Denise Carter approached Monica near the main demonstration ring, carrying a thick manila envelope and wearing a satisfied smile. "The city council approved the settlement offer last night," she announced quietly. "It's substantial enough to rebuild everything you lost and expand the business significantly?" Monica nodded gratefully. The money could never erase what Pike had put her through, but it would ensure her K9 Academy could help countless dogs and their families for years to come. "They're terrified of federal civil rights lawsuits," Denise continued, "especially after Pike's conviction made national headlines. The settlement avoids admitting guilt, but everyone knows what really happened." Captain Elise Harper arrived in an unmarked police vehicle, drawing curious stares from the gathered crowd. She approached Monica directly, her expression serious but respectful. "Ms. Graves, I wanted to personally announce the reforms we're implementing department-wide," Harper said clearly, ensuring nearby reporters could hear every word. Mandatory body cam retention policies, enhanced misconduct reporting procedures, and civilian oversight committees for excessive force investigations. She paused, looking directly at Monica. Pike's conviction exposed systematic problems that should have been addressed years ago. "We're committed to earning back public trust through real accountability." The crowd murmured approvingly as Harper shook Monica's hand firmly before departing. Across the street, Greg Heller's house sat empty and dark, with a "for sale" sign planted crookedly in the overgrown front yard. Neighbors whispered that he had moved away quietly after his criminal charges became public knowledge, leaving behind his HOA board position and his reputation in shambles. Monica stepped into the center of the demonstration ring as families gathered around the perimeter. Ranger and Duke sat perfectly at attention beside her, their tactical training collars gleaming in the afternoon sunlight. "Today, we'll show you basic obedience commands that can transform any relationship between dog and owner," Monica announced confidently to the crowd. A group of military veterans watched intently from the front row, several accompanied by their own service dogs. Monica demonstrated heel commands, emergency stops, and protective positioning techniques, while Ranger and Duke responded instantly to every subtle gesture and voice command. Children gasped in amazement as the massive Belgian Malinois moved with ballet-like precision around obstacles and through complex routines. Parents pulled out phones to record demonstrations they hoped to recreate with their own pets. "The key is consistency and respect," Monica explained, while Duke balanced motionlessly on a narrow beam. "These dogs aren't performing tricks. They're showing trust built through patience and proper training techniques." An elderly veteran in a wheelchair called out from the crowd, "Ma'am, could you help train my grandson's dog? The boy needs confidence, and that pup needs discipline." Monica smiled warmly. "Bring them both next week. We'll work together." More hands shot up with questions and training requests. Monica's calendar filled rapidly as Ava frantically wrote down contact information and scheduling preferences. The same street where Monica had once been pinned helplessly to the pavement now celebrated her strength and expertise openly. She no longer walked with fear or humiliation weighing down her steps. Instead, she moved with the quiet confidence of someone who had faced injustice and emerged victorious. As the sun began setting over Willow Creek Lane, casting long shadows across the celebration, Monica walked confidently down the center of the street, with Ranger and Duke walking proudly beside her. Neighbors waved from porches and car windows, offering congratulations and scheduling training appointments. A police cruiser approached slowly from the opposite direction, its engine humming quietly in the evening air. Monica maintained her steady pace as the vehicle drew closer, her dogs remaining perfectly composed beside her. The cruiser passed silently without stopping, its occupants offering respectful nods through the windows before continuing down the street and disappearing around the corner. I hope you enjoyed that story. Please like the video and subscribe so that you do not miss out on the next one. In the meantime, I have handpicked 2 stories for you that I think you will enjoy. Have a great day.